Welcome on, ladies. Today, we're going to be talking about how to stop going back to a toxic relationship. And if you are new to this channel, then my name is Kate London. Welcome. I specifically work with women who are in affair relationships as the other woman, the mistress, helping them get out of those relationships or ultimately helping you get out of the secrecy and the lack of alignment that is unfolding from an affair relationship, and helping you step back into your confidence, your strength, if that has been wearing down, getting out of that confusion and that lack of clarity and back into your empowered self. So that is the work that I do. If you are in an affair relationship and you have been trying to end the affair, but you keep finding yourself continually going back to your affair partner, firstly, I get it. Like, it's so common in these situations that are ultimately unhealthy, that have such a strong magnetic charge to it to continually go back to it. And the more and more you go back and don't follow through with your word, the more you lose self-confidence and self-trust to be able to follow through and have faith that you can follow through. So that can be completely debilitating, because in itself you want to leave, but based on past statistics, you have never followed through. And so it can feel incredibly degrading. Like, why would I do it again if I'm just not going to follow through? And also, you want to be clear on your words. So if you're saying what you want in the affair relationship and then not following through, then you might fear that you're communicating to your affair partner that my words don't stick. And that can also be incredibly challenging. So let's get straight into how to end and not go back to a toxic relationship. I personally was in a long-term 7-year affair with a married man, and I tried to leave multiple times, and I was getting so frustrated and really, I thought I was someone that was confident, could take action on what I wanted, and here I was completely stuck and powerless in this situation. So if you're in that situation right now, this isn't you. The situation that is unfolding has worn you down to a place of weakness in yourself that you haven't ever really tapped into. And that's tough. But know that the strength that you know you have as a person is there and can be tapped into. And if you have doubts that you actually have that strength within, we're going to go into how to not go back to this toxic relationship and really draw from a strength that you might not know you have, or how to get it when you feel depleted. So let's jump straight into it. The first one is acknowledge the toxicity. And this one is incredibly difficult because, first of all, we're in an affair relationship. So for one, there's this fear and this shame of being judged for the situation that we're in. So to acknowledge that this situation is unhealthy, we're acknowledging a shame within us that we often see so many unhealthy signs, but we neglect to acknowledge them because of the shame behind it, that we have been drawn into such a situation and can't get out. We notice the signs, we notice the red flags deep down underneath. If we acknowledge the toxicity in the relationship, then we're essentially tapping into that shame of, like, how did I even get myself into this situation with all these red flags? And so there's an element of us having to let down our guard and be truly vulnerable to where we're at in this situation by simply acknowledging that this situation is unhealthy. The next one is another fear for acknowledging that this is unhealthy is the desire to really cater for our affair partner's needs and protect him in his experience. And you might fear, if you leave him or acknowledge that this is unhealthy, then you're going to want to leave him, and you feel a sense of responsibility to his well-being and his emotions and his happiness. And so there's a fear in acknowledging that this is unhealthy, because if you do, then you have to essentially walk in a different direction than him. And that in itself is confronting. The next also thing that will stop us from acknowledging that this is unhealthy is a sense of hope. So um, there might be factors in the affair relationship that is stopping him from progressing forward into your relationship. For example, he has kids. He might have some strong work commitments right now and not be able to really give all his time and attention, all these different things. But then at the same time, there's this promise that you will come together eventually. And if you are feeling like it will go into a relationship eventually, notice that we hold on to this hope that there will be something that will unfold. And so, in order to acknowledge the toxicity, we essentially will be letting go of that whole hope that we've been holding on to for so long. And that is scary because if we face that, then it's like it really, if we let go of the hope that we've been holding on to, then we bump up against a lot of other fears that we have, like, will I ever meet a person like this? Will I ever fall in love again? Will I ever get the same kind of intensity and romantic sexual attraction that I had for this person? And all of those fears arise when we do acknowledge that there is an element of toxicity in this relationship. And then the next one is if you have been in an affair relationship and the married man that you're in an affair with has often blamed you for different parts in the relationship, or your emotions are too much, or whatever it is, then acknowledging this toxicity, there's a fear that we have done wrong in this situation. And if we really acknowledge the situation that we're in, then there's a fear of having to bump up against a lot of the shame and blame that he put on you, um uh, in a way of bringing it to light. That in itself is scary, but what will happen is as you begin to heal, you'll notice that a lot of this shame and blame is absolutely ourselves, but also can have come from our affair partner projecting it onto us. And so at first, acknowledging it is scary because there's the shame around how we got into this situation that arises. With time, though, we'll be able to unpack it and see that we might have been holding a lot of their shame, and taking it on as our responsibility. There's a lot of shame of ours as well in this situation, but we're just talking about their shame as well in this particular point that I'm covering. So that the first step is acknowledging the unhealthiness, the toxicity of this relationship. I feel like in itself, this is one of the biggest points that we need to address. If we can't see where this situation is unhealthy, then we're going to constantly hold close the pretty parts of the relationship, the fairy tale of the relationship, the parts of where our love is so deep in the relationship. And that honestly, if that is stronger than the unhealthiness of the relationship, like the story is a lot stronger, then you're going to want to go back to the pretty parts and dismiss where there's unhealthy in it, because your unhealthy list is this big and the pretty parts is this big. We want to even out that so that it does become easier to leave this relationship if we're really clear on why it has been so unhealthy for us. So, and I've got a point down below that we will go into around how to help build out that list. The next one is setting boundaries. It's very important when ending a relationship that is unhealthy and there has been a lack of respect in respecting one's boundaries from your affair partner's part, but also from your part. Where have you been leaky in setting a boundary, but then not following through with it? It's important when we are leaving a toxic relationship to be clear on what our boundaries are. And in order to be clear on what our boundaries are, the next one that I will go into, the next point, number 3, would be avoiding any contact. And you can go into my YouTube video on no contact to help you go no contact with your affair partner when breaking it up. But it's important to get clear on what your boundaries are and then go into a period of no contact where you're not engaging with him via text or anything, social media, deleting all of that so that your dopamine hits are not activated by simply having touch points with him. And it's really important, again, back to number 2, is to set boundaries and clearly communicate what your needs are in that no contact so that he can respect that. So, for example, what is a healthy boundary when we're going no contact? It's simply to say, look, I need 3 months of not contacting each other whatsoever so that I can really get some space and some time to think about this whole situation and where I stand on it. Or to really step into this time of breaking up so that I can heal by myself without continually having contact with you. What does that look like? I'm going to delete you off social media so that I'm not constantly checking in. I ask that you don't communicate with me via phone. If you need to block him, whatever it is that you need to do in order to support that boundary, do it, and communicate that this is what you need in order for you to heal and properly follow through with either breaking it off or getting some space, so that you can have time to heal and get your head around what it is that you really do want long term. So, number 2 is setting boundaries, communicate what they are that you need so that he can respect that. And number 3 is avoiding contact. So, going no contact with him. Again, I always invite you to set a period of time that you're willing to commit to that feels achievable and comfortable so that we at least have a stepping stone to get to from A to B. And then once we're at B, we've reached the 3 months, we've reached the 2 months, whatever it is, we can then decide, okay, I actually need this for 6 months. I do recommend that you need at least 6 months of no contact, especially if he's married. Like, if you see yourself getting in a relationship long term with this person, then it's going to take a lot for him to clean up his marriage, all the finances, the kids, the logistics around breaking up, going through a divorce takes time. And then also healing your heart from a change of chapter takes time. So 6 months is really nothing in the whole long-term picture if you do see yourself getting together down the long term. And then also 6 months is nothing if you don't see yourself getting together, then giving yourself that time to really not engage in the relationship. Number 4 is seek support. It's so important in this situation that you're not carrying this whole experience on your shoulders alone. It's so normal to carry it alone. It's an affair relationship. There's so much shame around how we even got ourselves in this situation to begin with. And so often we do carry this as a secret and on our shoulders for so long without ever telling anyone. It's important that you really do get the support and talk to a therapist, a psychologist, a coach, someone that's going to support you in digesting all that you're going through and then giving you an action plan forward that really nourishes and feels aligned for you. So make sure that you're getting the support. The next one is staying accountable. And again, if you have this support system, naturally, if you're talking to someone about what you're going through, you have this accountability intertwined in it because you know that I just spoke to my therapist this week and next week I'm going to be speaking to them again. So as much as I want to reach out, I'm going to follow through with not reaching out until I've actually spoken to my therapist. Just that in itself is powerful in helping you go no contact. I mean, in not going back to a toxic relationship because you have the accountability of someone that you're talking to. And another way to create that accountability is to create a support system. So if you've spoken to, or if you've got a therapist or a coach or a psychologist helping you, I also recommend you chatting to your closest friends, your sister or your brother or a family member that you really honor and trust and feel supported in, because this is obviously a very messy situation and can bring up a lot of shame. So you need to make sure that whoever you're sharing it with, you feel safe with sharing it and you leave away feeling lighter as opposed to yucky and more shameful for having shared that. it's important for you to create a support system that's not necessarily just your psychologist or coach, um, or therapist, and someone that's actually close by as well, so that you can relay some of the feelings that are coming up just nonchalantly as they come up, and that they can stand by your side when doing that. Now, it's important that they're not your only person, because you don't want to be the person dumping all this information on them and them not having the capacity to hold it all. I do still recommend you have a psychologist or a therapist or a coach helping you through this, so that you feel like you can freely share without holding back, knowing that you're not going to be a burden on this person, because this is what you're here to talk about. So that's really important. I do have a membership community that is of women that are going through this situation of affair relationships, either in it, ended it, healing, dating again. There's so many different phases of where they're at in their journey. And that support system in itself is insanely valuable, because you can just digest all that you're feeling completely shame free, because they have been there too and they fully get it. So that in itself can be massively beneficial. And you can click the link below to check out the support community there, if you would like that added extra support. The next one is keeping a journal. When we have been in this relationship for so long and we break it off, there's going to be times where you're feeling so vulnerable and really needing to reach out. And so it's really important for you to keep a journal on a lot of the things that were unhealthy in the relationship, that you're not willing to settle for and not willing to tolerate and accept. Also, really highlight the reason for, I need to hiccup. The reason for going no contact, what your motivations were, why you have to follow through with this period of no contact, and why you wouldn't be happy if you broke that. If you write, keep this journal, and if you write on in it when you're empowered and really feeling the necessity of going no contact, then when you do have times where you feel like you're going to fall through with needing to reach out to him, whip out that journal, even a video, recording a video of you talking about why it's so important for you to end this. Uh, Whip it out when you're in times of vulnerability, so that you can go back to your why on why you've decided to cut ties. Number 7 is develop new interests. This one is really important, because when your affair partner has been your whole world, he has been your, like, where your emotions sit the whole time, then suddenly cutting contact with a person that has been your whole world, has been your whole emotional home, there can be like a massive void. So I really encourage you to explore new hobbies, activities, interests, things that motivate you. At first, it will leave you feeling lonely, and I will acknowledge that, because when you're going to, say, a gym the first time and no one knows who you are, then you actually can feel this added loneliness. And when you feel that added loneliness, then you want to go back to your affair partner, because you're feeling this loneliness and you know that they can fill that void. Push through when you're feeling that loneliness because of a lack of connection, and know that it's simply because you're yet to know these people. Give it time to unfold, and the more you invest in these new activities, the more that you'll actually feel a sense of connectedness, and feel empowered from having these connections, and also feel a sense of community from having these connections. And the last one is be patient and be kind to yourself. This is not an easy situation to be in, for sure. And sometimes, because of the extent of how unhealthy this situation has been, it is incredibly difficult to end it. And know that I myself had tried so many times and eventually got through in the end. You too can. So notice any time that you have been back to your affair partner and feel that shame, notice that each time, in a way, it can be easier. You've gotten more resources and validation of why it's so important to break it off. So this time you're getting a step closer to the journey and destination that you are hoping to achieve. It is absolutely possible to heal. It is absolutely possible to feel whole again, to feel lighter again after such a emotional roller coaster that this experience can take you on. You can find love and you can find healthy relationships that honestly fill your heart up after this experience. So know that as much as this experience does fulfill so many needs on so many levels, and it is scary losing someone that you love so dearly, know that you will be able to attract it into your life again on a much more safer, nourishing level. So I leave you with that. I hope that helps you on ending a relationship that's no longer serving you. If you do need support, there is the opportunity to connect with me one to one. Or the opportunity to be in the group membership. I do highly recommend you join if you feel stuck in this situation. Absolutely, you can create so much change by just stepping into the vortex of this support system. So, if you feel called to do that, you can look at my website and see how that can nourish you and support you in taking the next steps forward. If you have any questions around that, also reach out to me. I'm absolutely here to support you on this journey. Bye for now.